Brian from Helix. Thank you for taking the time.
It's great to be here. We've always had a grassroots following with our fans, even with our interviewers, people like that. We go out of our way to try to accommodate. We're the typical Canadian nice guys.
I'll tell you what, man, like I think back to Friday night videos and just how big Rock You was. And I want to go down that path with you and kind of get your thoughts on, how instrumental and how key music videos were in the 80s and what it was in your camp that kind of like how did you guys realize and to be one of the first to kind of go down that path?
It was Capitol Records, EMI, that did that. They had us do our first video, which was Heavy Metal Love at Massey Ferguson plant in Toronto. And that video went right to the heavy rotation on MTV. Much music didn't exist in the States at that time. And we were touring the United States out of a van at that time, sleeping between the seats, which was the worst. You ever woke up with a cheesy, like right in your face like this, right? Or and don't drink the orange juice. And anyway, we'd be going down, and one that sticks in my mind was pulling into Washington. I forget what the club was. And there was a lineup over a block long to see the band. We'd never been to Washington before. And packed house, people hanging off the rafters to see the band. It was all because of the power of TV. And we'd never really experienced that before. And then we went, actually, the first time we were on TV was with Bob McAdory, Global News. And it was after we toured Texas in 1979, and we came back and we felt like stars. And to our friends, we were stars too because we played the United States, right? Which is kind of unheard of at that time. Not very many bands went down there. And we went on Global News and we played some of the film from Texas that I remember Brent froze because our manager, Bill Sipe, before we went in, Bill was on top of him going, don't say this, don't say this, say this, trying to instruct everything. And Brent was so freaked out that McAdory asked him which audiences do you like better, Canadian audiences or Texas audiences, and he froze. He didn't know what to say. I felt so sorry for Brent. And Brent came out of that interview and said, that's the last interview I ever do. And he didn't do one for many, many years after that.
Hmm. But it is crazy, like when you think about the early 80s and the importance of those videos, right? Like Friday night videos, good rocking tonight
It was
here in
very
Canada,
important.
right? Like,
And we had honed our skills through the bars. So we were well versed in moving around and working the camera and things like that. I remember we actually did a video type of deal with somebody at the Peppermint Lounge in Toronto. I'd love to find those tapes. And but that was on video. When we went to do the videos with at the Massey Ferguson plant, that was all film. It was shot in, I believe, um, 36 millimeter. Is that right?
mm, mm. Like watching the videos as a kid,
Hmm.
you didn't realize like you just like, it's Michael Jackson, it's Duran Duran, it's Helix,
Hmm.
right? And you kind of just put them on the level playing field, like legitimately thought and still think that, you know, it's like it just takes your band from another level, and it makes me wonder why. And I know that you've just re-recorded Rock You with Todd Kearns and Brent Fitz and those guys. We'll talk about that. But it like
Relax.
why why is it you think that the bands don't put music videos out anymore?
Well, there's not the vehicle to get them exposure.
No, but there is though.
MTV, in
YouTube's
what case, they're
huge.
gonna do they even play music videos anymore?
Well, I don't think they do on TV, but I'm talking like people are on their phones all the time, right? Like YouTube is massive, Facebook and all those platforms could still facilitate the vehicle. It's just a different time. It's curious, I guess, and as a longtime person in
Well,
the
we do
industry,
try to
that they
put
don't.
videos together when we can, but videos don't really have a instant payback, let's say. You
Yeah.
don't make money off of videos directly. It's more indirectly. In other words, if you got a video out, it probably prompts sales, vinyl or CDs or whatever, digital downloads. So that is the main way you get your money back. But they're very expensive. Like even a cheap video runs you anywhere from three to $5,000,
No way.
right?
Seriously?
Yeah. So yeah, but you can do one walking down. Like I did one off my solo album where I just had my handheld phone and walked through several different locations. But the idea has kind of been done a million times by now because
Yep.
nobody's got any money.
No doubt nobody has the money or the time or like, holy shit, now that it's produced, now I need to splash it everywhere on social media. Like it's a
I've
huge
used our
job.
old guitarist Brent Durner for a lot of our videos, and I find Brent works the best when I come to him with a script and I got the location secured. When we did Gene Simmons' Rock is Dead, which I think is a pretty good video for the
Mhm.
money we spent, I went and sussed out the locations. One was an old graveyard down by Dutton, Ontario, and then I went over to Fanshawe College for the green screen where Mo from Destroyer came in and did a little part for me. And then I think we did another one down at the record store in town. What was the record store in? Do you remember? Speed City Records. Don't want to forget them, right? Because they're still there
Oh,
selling
nice.
across the street.
Yeah.
And so I think you can still pull off a really good video if you do the proper preparation.
Yeah. Like anything, I suppose, right?
And I
So,
love, I've taken film since 1976. I have home movies, sound home movies in some cases that go right back to that 1976. I'm probably one of the few people in Canada that was out there filming at that time, and it was a very special time in Canadian musical history. In fact, I'm writing a book called The Golden Age of the Canadian Bar Circuit. It was a training ground for bands. It's where we learned our licks, honed our skills, got tight as a band musically, and even as people, it molded you into, we were hardened. By the time we got signed to Capital EMI in 1983, we were ready to take on the world. And the record company saw that in us. They came out to see us at the Gasworks, and they were kind of on the fence whether or not they were going to sign the band. And at the end of the second set that night at the Gasworks, Brent blew his amp up, so he went and stuck his little practice amp up, stuck a microphone up to it. We went on for the third set, and we rocked even harder than the second set when the record company was there. Unbeknownst to us, the record company had come in through a back door and was watching through a little window. And they said to each other, look at these guys, doesn't matter what, they keep going. So that was a good investment for them. Like, think about it. If you're going to invest money in a band, you want a band to tour to get the music out there. And they saw that in us, and we were road hardened. In fact, I talked to Al Harlow of Prism when I was interviewing people for the book,
mm,
and he said the same thing. When Prism released their first album, they had Bruce Allen. They were writing with Jim Vallance, who ended up writing most of the Brian Adams songs with them.
mhm.
Uh, they had the agency set up, so and they were road hardened musicians once again, and the kind of like tick the boxes because a record company is going to sink money into you. They're looking at an investment, and we were a good investment.
Yeah. Yeah, clearly. And, talk about a super unique time of the industry. Like you're saying, back then, like certainly no internet. There's like almost virtually no computers. If you had a computer, you were rich as fuck.
Well, no, there
Cell
was no
phones were the
computers
size
when
of bricks, if there were any
there were
at
no
that time.
computers when we started. Cell phone. The only other entertainment at that time was the bowling alley or the pool hall. So we pretty much had the market cornered. Um, And today, you get all sorts of stuff. That's why we progress with our show to now we got huge screen behind us when we play in most places. And
Yep.
we got also videos up there as we play because people want more
Well, it's almost
nowadays.
expectation at this point, Brian.
Yeah, five guys standing up there just rocking on is great, but they want, like I said, they want more. They want film, they want explosions, whatever you're going to put up there.
Hmm. Hmm. So talk about the decision to re-record. Rock You.
Well, the decision to re-record Rocky was really Greg Campbell's idea from the record company, and he brought in the Toque guys because I think they were in town doing the second Fubar movie. They were doing some uh, event somewhere, a private showing or a private little gig,
Okay.
and so he was able to get them to come in, and they all grew up in Helix, so they had a fondness for me and the music. And I knew some of the guys when I was down in Vegas a couple years previously. Brent and I went out for a supper at actually, I think the Peppermint Lounge, I think it was called, where Elvis used to go.
Okay.
And then I went down and I jammed with Todd Kearns and a couple of guys from the guitar player for Great White, Mike Lardy. Is that his name?
Okay. With the Sin City Sinners?
In the Cincinnati Setters when I forget the name of the casino so long ago now, but so I
Yeah.
knew Todd too. I might have met Phil in previous life, but anyway, when he got there, we were instant friends, and I love the guys playing, of course. All
Yeah.
these all these guys are amazing musicians and singers.
Killer musicians, but like super, super nice guys.
Super nice guys. Todd's got a voice. He can sing where only dogs fear to tread, you know? He can sing. He can sing all that Axl Rose stuff, and he's quite the guy. I think his original band was Age of Electric, and he was from Saskatoon,
That's right. He
and
did Static and
Brandon Phil's out
Stereo
of
as
Winnipeg,
well,
and
which was a pretty
Phil's out
cool
of
band.
Toronto.
Yeah. Yeah, they've both been kind of like entrenched in the scene. Like Brent Fitz used to be the drummer of Econoline Crush. He was
Mm.
the drummer in Theory of a Dead Man as well. Of course, he's Slash's drummer now. Like those are some big players, man.
Big players, and you could tell they're totally professional people too. When we got in the studio to do it, Brent was like focused. He was like, you could just tell by the look on his face. He was, had the project in his mind. He knew exactly what he's going to do.
Mhm.
And you can tell professional people when you work with them.
Yeah,
I don't know what else to say about that. I got a sense of that when I work with people.
yeah,
Some people, they can't even get the times together. That's like basic stuff.
right. Can't do that. Come on now. You know.
Oh, I'm a
Um,
big stickler on time. I go, what makes your time more important than my time? I don't care who you are.
yeah, I agree. That's cool. That's cool. So, and then of course you released a new music video for it as well.
Yeah, I think they brought up a photographer from Brazil. Do you know his name?
Junior, Junior Sorelli.
Junior Sorelli.
Okay.
Got my coach over here at Jay Panasico.
Yeah, see that. That's great.
Jay does a lot of work for me, and he's quite the promotional guy. We did a big concert in Ingersoll last year. We had over 4,000 people there. It was a lot of work, but Jay knew what he was doing and really promoted it well. So
Yeah.
Jay worked in close conjunction with me with Helix and whatever project we happen to be working on.
Still feels good after all these years, right? To get in front of people, like your love of the the game hasn't changed over the years, right?
Not at all. My voice in pretty good shape. Um, I try to practice as much as I can with the tape that Daryl sent me of all the set songs
Okay.
because you only sometimes only sing like every 2 months, so
Mm,
you get out of shape. And I don't want to go. I tried doing the cover thing in the bars, and that was very demoralizing.
yeah, like
I
no.
can't do it. I'd
Yeah,
rather take the chair out.
yeah. So you grew up in a musical house?
Not at all.
Mm,
My grandfather was my influence in music, and he was a big country buff. In fact, I got 24 Johnny Cash albums in my record collection. But that's where I first listened to music, Johnny Cash, Hank Williams, Kitty Wells, Patsy Cline. And he also had Top of the Pops, which I listened to as well. And once I got into high school, I went and bought my very first record, which was American Woman by the Guess Who. And then I think I bought Monster by Steppenwolf, Geez, Aladdin Sane by David Bowie, Joe Cocker, Mad Dogs and Englishmen. The funny thing is, a lot of these people I ended up meeting later on in my career, like John K. Steffenwolf and
Mm.
Joe Cocker. So I've been lucky.
Met Joe Cocker, hey? He just got inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I heard that's great. He should be.
He should be there for
I
sure,
met
yeah.
Leon Russell too, who played for Mad Dogs and Englishmen, as you know.
Yeah.
But Joe Cocker, I met down in New York on Avenue of the Americas, where the Capitol building was. And Paul and I were there doing all day interviews. And I'm trying to remember the guy that from the record company, it'll come to me. But he used to go out with Sheenie Easton.
Mm.
And he said, "We'd like to meet Joe Cocker." I says, "Yeah, I'm a big fan." So Joe Cocker, come on. He goes, Man, it's my 40th birthday, and I just smoked a great big blunt off of wine. You'll have to excuse me. And I got pictures too. So,
Oh, that's great. Yeah, he's one of the best, man. That's you know, what a
oh,
what a time to be in the industry too. Like, just again, it was just a different time. Like when labels were throwing money around. Like I caught the tail end of that as a radio,
our money.
right? Chucking, yeah, exactly, your money around. Well, when they're chucking money around like that, it
Excuse me.
was it was truly it's just it's a time that almost like when you talk about it, people don't even believe it.
Yeah, that's why I want to write the book. It was such an important part of Canadian musical history, and it's gone now. People don't realize it, but there's no place to train. Like,
Mm,
okay, you can go down to the corner bar and play your ass off for like forever. But if you want to be a truly eclectic performer and have a world view to your music, you need to get out and travel and see the world. The whole world isn't the corner bar in or your local watering hole.
mm,
Out across the country. And I had a band actually stay here that was touring, and it's really tough for young bands um, because the rooms aren't supplied a lot of times,
right.
or they're working for the door. I believe the band was called The Fixer, and they're from Thunder Bay, and they came and stayed. Their dad approached me and said, "Look, they'll sleep in the floor of the garage." I said, "Well, I'm not going to make them sleep on the floor of the garage, but they can sleep on the floor of my basement
Mm,
as a rug." And so that's what they did. And I hardly even knew they were there, to tell you the truth. They must have been they must have talked among themselves to stay out of my hair as much as possible. But it was a great feeling because I felt like I was mentoring these people to an extent, and a pretty good band. The Fixer.
the Fixer is a great name for a band as well.
Yeah.
That was the thing about COVID too that really like further to your book that you're going to put out. What's it called again? The book's called what?
Golden Age of Canadian Bar Circuit.
Golden Age of Canadian Bar Circuit. Like
And you know what? I'm a qualified to write that book because Helix was the first band ever to play from Atlantic to Pacific through the bars.
mm,
Many bands flew out to the coast, like Major Hoople's Boarding House, for instance, right, or Copper Penny.
yeah,
Then ground, they'd fly out to the East Coast. But we actually went week by week by week. In fact, I can even tell you the bars we played. We'd start off in Kitchener, and then we drive up to North Bay and we play the St. Regis Hotel. From there, we go to the Water Tower in Sault Ste. Marie. From there, we go to the Landmark in Thunder Bay. From there, we go to the Norlander in Winnipeg, then the Albion in Portage la Prairie, and then the Scary Nights or Regina Nights in Regina, or we go to the A4 in Saskatoon, and then over to Alberta. We play the Airliner in Calgary, the Beverly Crest Hotel in Edmonton. Then we go down and play the Westward in Medicine Hat, the Alec Arms in Lethbridge, and then we'd skip over to Alberta. We play Outlaws in Vancouver, and then there was a whole whack of bars I can't even remember, but
mm,
week by week, and it was grueling. And we lost our wives, our girlfriends. Sometimes they alienated the family, uh, but there's I know what to say about that.
is rock to be had.
Yeah. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll, loss of family.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that furthers the point that I was going to make, Brian, is that COVID really screwed that part of the industry as well, shutting down venues, and it's been kind of gradually doing that on its own anywhere, where you're losing those venues where you can play 50, 100 people. Yeah, and suddenly you're getting these bands like the Fixer that plays Vancouver, but nobody knows them and what they're going to play a 500 seater. Nobody's going to show up.
Well, the problem is back in the day, as I said before, we were the only game in town. There was no other entertainment. Nowadays, the if you play in a bar, there's two ways to make money off the band, the bar and the door. For
Mhm.
the casino, they don't even care about the bar or the door. They care about getting people out on the gambling floor. In the case of festivals, a lot of them are sponsored by government or they got some source of revenue, booths that are selling everything from t-shirts to motorcycle parts. So it's become diversified, and bars sadly can't compete with a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. How old were you for your first serious band?
Well, Helix really was my first serious band. I was in a little high school thing, but we never really played anywhere except the high school.
Wow.
And those guys went and entered us in the Battle of the Bands at the COE in Kitchener, Ontario, which was sponsored by Sherwood Music. And we basically were laughed away when I came down with my little high school band. But we were approached by a couple of musicians from uh, Kitchener, Bruce Arnold, Ron Watson, and they wanted us to be in a band that they were forming. And so I was moving there after grade 13 anyway, to work at Snyder's Meats. I had a little short stint in the Ontario Youth Choir. The Ontario Youth Choir, by the way, was 50 kids that were picked from 500 applicants across Ontario from high schools, universities, and the best choir students. And I got lucky and I got picked. And we opened up Hamilton Place with Galt McDermott on piano, who wrote Hair. We had Aretha Franklin's band. We had Noel Carter and Al Nicholson from Jesus Christ Superstar, Salome Bay.
Wow.
Uh, then I went in and worked at Snyder's Meats on the night shift. And I stocked the shelves. I made cardboard boxes. I did all sorts of jobs. And I couldn't stand it after a while. And I eventually went on the road. I sold my brand new car and bought a $25 Ford Galaxy with Bondo red fenders. And I went on the road and I never looked back. And I picked up Del Shannon, the Del Shannon, with that $25 Ford Galaxy with the Bondo red fenders and the snow tires on in the middle of August at Pearson International Airport. And I remember going down the 401, and anybody that's ever been in a 67 Ford Galaxy knows the hood's about a mile long. And I was doing about 85 miles an hour down the 401, and Del Shannon was holding on for dear life. And he said, Look it. He said, if you stop, I'll buy you a steak dinner. If you slow down, I'll buy you a steak dinner. So that's what we did.
That's great. That's a great story. What was your first concert that you went to?
First concert I ever went to, geez, I have to think about that. I believe it was Lighthouse and Foot and Cold Water.
Oh, okay.
It might have been James Gang and Edgar Winter Right Trash. It was either or.
Hmm. And you like fairly young for that, or
Yeah, well, trying to think. I think I was still in high school
hmm.
or just out of high school. Ironically, I ended up playing with Edgar Winter years later once again.
Did you really, huh?
Yeah. In Indiana. That's where I met Leon Russell. He was playing for Edgar Winter.
Yeah. How about your first show as Helix? Where was it?
It was at Listowel High School.
Okay.
And then we played Blueville High School, which was Bruce Arnold's high school. And I get pictures from those nights. Ironically, for some reason, my hometown of Listowel doesn't want to hire us. Hey, Listowel, we're out here.
What? What? It doesn't make any sense.
I don't know. A lot of the business is politics.
Hmm.
And so I'm not really up and listen to a lot, so I probably don't have the in.
Still though, come on, Brian, let's be honest. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. But the
Yeah.
same thing with Kitchener, right? That's why I booked my own shows for this summer. We're coming to Cowboys in London,
Mm,
and Elements in Kitchener, and we have Chip and Enough is Enough backing us up.
okay.
Plus a great local band that has music out called How's That? And there's one other band, I can never remember their name. But I think they have the drummer for Buck Cherry, and they're doing a 20-minute acoustic set.
Oh, cool. So you still book your stuff like months and months and months in advance then?
Oh yeah, I have bookings in August already.
Is that right?
Yeah, and I might
Kind
have
of need
some.
to be that
Oh,
way. Like it's just constantly hopping from one thing to the next, right?
in what way?
Uh, like you say, you're writing a book, you're doing a tour, are you making new music? All that stuff needs to be months and months, and like you have to have forethought to be able to do what you do.
Well, we always worked like we just got up and worked on the band since I can remember.
Yeah.
And I used to do the little newspaper that we used to put out called the Heliograph. So writing about the band was something I always enjoyed. In fact, I've enjoyed writing stories and things like that since I was a kid. I used to have a book of stories I wrote and just for myself. What kid does that? Only weird ones.
Hmm.
And so it's just same thing with taking films. I used to use my grandfather's camera to take films, and it just grew from there.
Hmm.
But I'm always doing projects, and I don't really schedule them. I get up if I feel like writing that day, I write. If I feel like, but the booking the band for live dates, it's a constant thing. I'm getting a wave here from Jay though, saying that I got another interview coming up. So,
Okay, fair enough. Hey, Brian,
but
thank you,
it's
man,
been
for
fun. It's been fun talking to you.
yeah, thank you for taking the time here, man. I'm a huge fan. Literally you had me as a 8 or 9 year old probably back when you
And
put
where
out.
are you?
Pardon me?
Where are you situated?
I'm in Vancouver.
You're in Vancouver? Yeah, love Vancouver.
Yeah. Plans to come here? Well, we'll find that out all on the website and stuff, right? So I'll
Sounds
tag
like I'm
you.
knocking at your door tomorrow morning.
Please do, brother. We'll tag you when we're chucking this stuff around online. Thanks again, man. Have a great day.
You're welcome. You have a great day as well.
Okay.